Am I the asshole for wanting to enforce my boundary? My husband G, 30 male, and I, 28 female, have been together for about 6 years, married for 2. We have had a really good run so far, but there is one topic that we have always disagreed on: bikes. Very early in the relationship, he told me that he wants to get a bike license. I sat him down and told him that that was an absolute no-go for me and always would be, but that we were only together for a month and that I would understand if he decided to end things cleanly there and then. He asked for some time, but in the end, told me that he was okay with giving this up for a chance with me. Fast forward to 2 days ago, he came home from work and he was visibly upset. I tried talking to him, but he was avoidant until he snapped and started venting that all of his friends are planning a massive bike trip for next summer and that they told him that he should get his license and tag along. He also told me that he was always very supportive of me, which is very true, and that this was his only dream, and I was taking it away. I did not have the best reaction to this and just replied asking if he was serious. He said yes. I told him that he was a big boy and he can do what he wants, but that if he goes on the trip, he would come back to an empty house. He packed some stuff and is now staying with some friends. Am I the baddie here? I was always very clear about my boundary, gave him the chance early enough to leave if he doesn't like it, and just don't want it crossed. His friends, obviously biased of course, have been putting divorce jokes on their social media since he left after our fight. Edit. I wanted to add a small edit to answer some of the common questions I've seen in response to the post. So why is this such a hard boundary for me? I have lost multiple, a total of 6, family members and friends between the ages of 6 and 19. Also, he has known this since the first time we talked about it. Why am I taking out my trauma on him, and why don't I get help for my anxiety? I have been in various forms of therapy since I was 8. This continues to this day, though it's not completely for my anxiety anymore since it has lessened over the years, and there have been other issues that I needed help with. My last therapy was last week. Another is scheduled for next Monday. I also never felt like I'm taking my trauma out on anyone. I dealt with my feelings in therapy, but decided that I would never put myself into a position where death due to a bike accident was likely. Yes, I know that anyone can die at any point in time for any reason. When we first talked about it, he asked me if there was any form of extreme sport that I would be okay with. We have been diving together, he is regularly bouldering, and I got him skydiving lessons for his birthday last year. But bikes are a no-go, and they always will be. Is there any option in this situation? I asked him if he were okay with going along on another vehicle. He scoffed and told me that it's not the same. And why give him an ultimatum? This is where I royally effed up, and I admit and accept it. In the moment when I said it, I didn't see it as a threat or an ultimatum, but rather a fact that I was stating. It was not to scare or manipulate him, it's the truth. But I understand that it comes across horribly, and I'm going to apologize for it when I can. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I'm scared I'm the asshole because in my mind, I'm only enforcing my boundary that I've been clear about from the start. But for him, this is a dream that is lost forever because of me. Now in the comments, I'll say no assholes here. You have always been honest about your feelings toward bikes, and he made his choice to stay with you knowing what the consequences would be. He has always wanted to get his license and to drive, and now he realizes what he's missing out on and is frustrated. I don't think you're the asshole for letting him know that you still feel the way that you always have, and that if he chooses to take his license and go on the trip, you will leave. Though maybe it could have been said in a less hostile way. On the other hand, I understand him as well, and if it means so much to him, he should do it and deal with the two of you not being together anymore. No assholes here. Bikes are dangerous, and it's within your rights to oppose to them, but he doesn't have to agree. Both of you are entitled to make your decision in accordance with his recent and abrupt notion. Bike riders are prone to be injured more frequently, and it was proven statistically multiple times. I can fathom why you don't want the father of your seemingly future kids to jeopardize himself. Not the asshole. I'm really surprised by all the "you're the asshole" votes. He knew that you would never be okay with him taking up what is a dangerous hobby at the best of times. If you have additional personal reasons against it, then he is double the asshole. He doesn't get to pout 6 years later that you are standing by your word. His bad temper and leaving are either a form of manipulation to try to force you to change your mind, which would be the biggest of red flags, or he's realized that he's no longer willing to give this up. Either way, your marriage is most likely over, but I certainly don't think that it's your fault. He's backing out of one of the first promises that he made to you. What else is he going to throw a tantrum over? I don't see your behavior as controlling at all, and your ultimatum isn't really an ultimatum. It's a clear case of action followed by consequences. If he does this, you will leave, as you've always said before. If you don't follow through, he will walk over you for the rest of your life. If he values your marriage so little when weighed up with a bike trip with his boys, why should you? When vetting a growing relationship, you are in many ways choosing the types of disagreements you are willing to have, and ideally, clearly outlining the type of relationship you aren't willing to continue with. We do this all the time. Smoking versus not, kids versus not, guns, religious or political beliefs, the list goes on and on. You were very clear with him. He understood the relationship he was entering into. He is of course welcome to change his mind at any time, but he shouldn't expect you to change yours. Not the asshole. Unexposed is titled, "Am I the asshole? I didn't let my daughter stay with me and my wife after she got pregnant." My 48 male, daughter 21 female, started dating this guy 2 years ago. I told her she can do better than a drug addict with theft charges. She said she's an adult who can make her own life decisions, and it's none of my business who she dates. She got pregnant with his child a year ago. He was working as a waiter somewhere to help take care of her. Then he relapsed and left her to fend for herself. She then aborted the baby and started working as a sex worker. I told her that I could get her a better job if she was willing to listen to me this time. She then got mad at me and said that I only have a problem because she's working in the sex industry. I told her it's not that, and that I just want her to have a more stable job so she doesn't become dependent on someone again. She said that it's none of my business and I shouldn't be trying to interfere in her matters since I'm not her real dad. I'm her stepfather since she was 6 years old. I was hurt and I no longer contacted her. I got a call a week ago from her. She was sobbing and saying that she was pregnant with his child again, and he again left her. She didn't have money to pay rent, so she was thrown out. She asked me if I could let her stay with me for a while. I told her no and said that her matters are none of my concern. I reminded her that she is an adult and can get out of it herself. She said that I'm her dad and should be helping her. I reminded her that I'm not her real dad. She put this up on Facebook, and my relatives are now calling me and texting me, saying that I'm being cruel. Am I the asshole? Edit, her mum agrees with me, her bio dad is dead. Now in the comments, you can be right and still be an asshole about it. Everyone sucks here. Yup, this here. While I get your response and reasoning, it seems that she is one messed up young woman who will probably go through a few more life lessons before she gets herself straight. It also seems that you do love your daughter and want her to be safe and stable. So is this the time and situation to try and make your point that what she said and how she acted was ugly? You're the asshole. Because she won't learn what she did by herself. If she would, she'd have learnt it by now. She clearly didn't, and the best help for life she can get at this moment is to gain mental maturity. She doesn't get any long-term benefit by letting her exploit her own family without learning what she has done. She has to develop herself. She wouldn't if she can just pass the consequence of her actions to someone else. But this consequence is a child. I'm all for people learning the consequences of their actions, but being homeless and bringing a child into the world is a little different from touching a hot pan to figure out you shouldn't. Except she's 21 and had 2 pregnancies on top of throwing her stable job away for an unstable job. At this point, she is choosing to make bad choices out of spite. Not the asshole. She's an adult, as she's constantly repeated herself when you've tried to help her in the past. I'd be annoyed too. However, I do believe that you should point her in the right direction. Offer guidance and the job that you originally offered. Having her in your home will only cause more conflicts. You both sound stubborn and may clash. Everyone sucks here. You proved your point, she needs help. If you're in the position to help her, please do so. I would call her up, let her know her past actions hurt you, and offer to help, provided she doesn't insult you further. Hard disagree. She cut contact with him for a year, told him that he's not her father, and only came back when she's down. Why would he help her? Just so she can disappear again? I have no idea what I would do as a parent in this situation. I sure hope that my son doesn't end up in a similar situation, but I would be so hurt if those same things were said and done to me. I would want to help him, of course, but I would worry that it was a momentary abusive relationship and they would continue to sleep with this guy or start having drugs/strange people over too. My gut feeling is that everyone sucks here. I don't blame OP for acting the way he did, but she is still his daughter, even if she said horrible things while in a low point of her life. I just know that I was totally different at 21, 24, and 28, and that I would hate to be stuck without my family because I was a crap at that age. Unexposed is titled, Am I the Asshole for Excluding Our Little Sister? I come from a pretty big family. I have 5 siblings, all pretty close in age. Our sister Cassie is 5 years younger than me. I'm the second oldest. Now, before my little sister arrived, life was great. Our parents were amazing, everyone got along and was happy. Then my little sister comes along, and she is a nightmare. The biggest things about her are that she's incredibly stubborn, and even as a teenager, acted like a child. I could understand being childish and saying corny or childish things when she was 7, but by the time she was 11, we got fed up. Examples of her effing stubbornness is when she was 6, trying to get her to do her maths work. She just bloody wouldn't. Our mother forced her to sit down, but she wouldn't pick up the pencil and do it. We offered her so many sweets and rewards, but no. Mum was getting pissed, and she just said, okay, if rewards won't work, then punishment will. And she didn't get ice cream when we all went out that day. It worked, and she came home and did the work. The only thing that ever got her to do things was punishment. Meanwhile, the rest of us always worked for rewards, like TV time or new video games. She began to pick up on this, and slowly decided that it was favoritism. I understood her thought process at first, but it was explained to her so many times. We get rewards for doing the same things that she does. Our parents rectified this by giving us punishment if we didn't do something. The thing is, she barely ever saw this, if ever, because the rewards were enough for us. Our parents never had to be harsh with us, but almost always had to get harsh for Cassie. Cassie always saw this as, they love them more than me. They are harsh to me, but never do that to them. I guess this irked her and made her behavior worse. When she was 11, she was so stubborn that my mother just tried to get her to do basic things, like grabbing her something from her room or doing her homework, would literally throw stuff in anger. I get that sounds bad, but I feel like it was justified. Mum would spend half an hour chasing down Cassie to sit down and work, and then spend another hour trying to get her to work. This was necessary work, like homework or studying for exams. It was so frustrating to watch and hear our mother yelling, and Cassie acting like such a cow for the sake of it. Eventually it got to the point where everyone in the house was yelling at Cassie to do things. It became so hostile, everyone was pissed all the time. So eventually, our parents decided that it was best to send Cassie to one of those super strict boarding schools to learn discipline. Cassie took it as a slight and another sign of favoritism, that she was worthless and not good enough to stay at home. She became worse until she was estranged from everyone. Everyone hates her. Recently, I got engaged and am planning my wedding. I am not even inviting Cassie. Cassie got into contact and is pissed that I'm not inviting her. Am I the asshole? And edit. Okay, I see a lot of people asking this, and rightfully so. Cassie was seen by several psychologists and therapists throughout her childhood. Therapy helped a bit, but in my country, therapy is limited. We were told by several doctors, including specialists, that nothing is wrong with Cassie. Okay, and small note, this wasn't her behavior from just 6 to 11 years old. This was her behavior throughout her life, and to this day, when she is 18. Now in the comments, the amount of hostility you all seem to have for her is so very unsettling. And they all gave up on her by 11. Dude. It is very obvious most people posting here have never had to deal with an actual demon child. My nephew is like this, but a little worse. Screw that crap. People here think the worst, if anything less than constant perfection and niceness, is used on a child. Yelling is instantly viewed as abuse, no matter how many times somebody asks calmly first. I'm still trying to figure out how this kid sinned so mortally. All I see is a kid that didn't want to do their homework, and a family that decided that was bad enough to make her the black sheep. You frickin' suck so much. All of you are disgusting. I feel so sorry for your sister having been born into this family with you as her sibling. Edit. Who the hell gives a 6-year-old homework, and who the hell thinks it's appropriate to force a 6-year-old to sit down and do homework? I'm guessing her teacher. Not the asshole. I never get in on these, but the hostility is wild in the comments. You get to cut toxic people out of your life, and you get to decide what constitutes too toxic for you. While you should make the effort, as adults, to rebuild your relationship with her, you certainly don't have to. The people saying that you're an asshole for treating her like crap when you were a kid are displaced in their anger. Child siblings are rarely capable of seeing injustices perpetrated by parents, especially if the parents seem decent otherwise. There is no way you could have had an objective view that your sister was mistreated, if she even was. She sounds like a crap, although that could have been a self-fulfilling prophecy. Regardless, that is all in the past, and even if you do decide to have a good relationship together, that likely will not happen before your wedding. It's likely she and your family won't reconcile before your wedding, and if so, I would expect an outburst at some point that night because it's just too soon. Keep her excluded and reach out later. People are really missing the cause and effort in this post, because apparently a few swear words diminish reading comprehension in many. OP's sister experienced punishment because of her behavior. She was asked to do things and refused, was offered incentives to do things and refused, and then was eventually punished to do things, and she wouldn't respond to anything else despite ongoing attempts. She fought tooth and nail against doing anything and refused to accept that the only reason she was treated different was because she behaved differently to her siblings. This was even explained to her multiple times. If she wanted to be treated differently, she needed to behave differently. The parents did fail for allowing hostility to build to such levels in their home, but sometimes kids just do refuse to behave with respect, or do as they are supposed to. Ignoring that would have created a whole different problem. Am I the asshole for making my son live cheaply? I honestly can't believe I'm posting this, but here we go. So, my ex gives me a generous amount of child support every month, and I use about 20 to 30% of it maybe. I'm very good at budgeting since my mum raised me on her own, and we always stuck to a strict budget. My ex grew up being overindulged and knows that he would never have to worry about money in his lifetime, so we have different ideas about what living cheaply looks like. Recently, my ex wanted to have a word with me because he didn't like the fact that I made our son walk home from school. He wanted to know why I wouldn't buy a car, and offered the money to get one when I told him that cars were expensive and I thought that it was a waste of money. I told him no, since I would rarely use it. He then told me to take an Uber home instead of making him walk. Again, I told him no, and he brought up all the other ways he thought that I was making our son live cheaply. For example, I didn't buy him new football shoes or a goal when he started getting into football. He is only 4. I buy him cheap clothes. I rarely take him out to eat, and if we go to a toy shop, I only ever let him get one thing and it can't be super expensive. My ex wanted to know what I was using all of the money that he gave to me on if I was raising our son like this. So I explained that I never used most of it, but kept it in a separate account for either a rainy day or for our son. Now he's angry at me for making our son live cheaply, and essentially told me to stop saving and actually give our son the things that he wants now because he had already made sure that our son would be fine in the future. Am I the asshole? And edit, I was trying to avoid editing the post, but since so many people are asking me to, or asking me the same question over and over again, of course my 4-year-old son doesn't walk home alone from school. I drop him off and then pick him up. The teacher only lets him leave the building after she sees me. Also, it's a 25-minute walk for anyone who cares. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I don't spend most of the child support my ex gives me, which he thinks means that I'm making our son live cheaply. I may be the asshole, as I could definitely use more of the money to give our son the things that he wants and still be okay financially. Now in the comments, you're the asshole. All that money should be used to support your son, not put away for a rainy day. Put any access money in a college fund or something for his future. This is not your money. It's for your son. I think it depends on what rainy day fund means in this case. Say OP loses her job and needs to dip into the fund to feed her kid. Is that so bad? Or saving in case of a medical emergency for her kid. Assuming US and its awful healthcare costs, it's always important to have an emergency fund, but especially important when you have a kid. Just because it's going into a fund doesn't mean that it's not for the kid's needs. The kid just hasn't had a need for it yet. I see a lot of responses like this. Did you all miss the part about the ex being wealthy and having already made sure that our son would be fine in the future? The implication being the kid probably already has a college fund, maybe a trust fund. Context matters. If saving for larger expenses in the kid's future were necessary, this might be a different story. But that is not the case here. But the future is always uncertain. Maybe the kid does something down the line that the ex is unhappy about and cuts the kid off. Maybe the ex has an emergency and loses everything himself. It's a good idea for both parties to have funds in case something happens. You're the asshole. Child support is for the child. If you aren't using it for the child, maybe he should take you back to court to renegotiate how much money he is giving you and instead buy your son stuff. There is nothing wrong with buying cheaper clothes or stuff that he's going to get messy and outgrow, or not buy lots of toys. But there needs to be a clear discussion about what child support is for. Does he have any custody? Is the child support court ordered? Also, how far is your kid walking to and from school? As he is only 4, I assume it's with you. There's a difference between 2 blocks and a mile. Research shows that having less toys is better for kids' development, especially in terms of developing creativity. Walking is good exercise. The OP said 25 minutes walk, and there is nothing wrong with that. The money saved for an emergency, or her child's future, is not a bad thing. She can live more easily knowing there is money for an emergency, and her kid will have a nice egg of money for college trades program or down payment on a house. As long as she isn't neglecting her child, I don't think her ex really has a say. OP might be misleading, but nothing she describes is neglectful. Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for locking myself and my newborn in the guest bedroom so that I could finally spend some time with her away from my wife?" Hello Reddit. My daughter is 2 weeks old. I have barely held her since she was born. My wife constantly has her. When I do get to hold her, my wife just starts crying hysterically until I give her back. I ask her why, and she said she was anxious that something would happen to our daughter, and that's why she felt the need to hold her so close. No matter how much I tried to reassure her, she just wouldn't let up. I practically begged her to just let me hold her so that my wife could shower, eat, and care for herself, but nothing worked. I felt like I was losing precious bonding time with my daughter, so I did what I thought I had to do. My wife was asleep on the sofa with our child. I took her, went to the guest bedroom, and locked the door. My wife woke up shortly after, very upset of course that our daughter wasn't with her. She soon realized I was in the guest room and begged me to open the door. She was crying, kicking, and screaming. I didn't open it though, and spent a good couple of hours with our daughter in there. Apparently my wife had called her mum, because I got a call from my mother-in-law cussing me out, saying how I shouldn't be taking a newborn from her postpartum mother, and other things like that. My wife has been furious with me and won't speak, and I'm just so frustrated because I really just wanted to spend quality time with my child, but maybe that wasn't the way to do it. Am I the asshole? Now in the comments, you're the asshole for not getting your wife help sooner. She was crying, kicking, and screaming, and you didn't open it though. I'm worrying about both of your mental health and ability to care for your newborn daughter right now. Please seek professional help. I completely agree, but I've got a serious question because I'm curious. Would you have opened the door to them and given them the baby while it was clear they were having a breakdown? Opening the door would have helped alleviate the stress she was feeling. I wouldn't just hand over the baby and walk away. Opie's wife clearly needs help, but I absolutely would open the door. Getting her help and keeping baby safe should be the priority, not causing that level of stress and anxiety on purpose. Locking her away from her baby was not the right answer. You really think saying, "I'm not going to give you this baby," is going to keep someone that hysterical from wrestling for the baby? Is no one else concerned about the baby? The mother literally won't put her down. She fell asleep with her. That is so dangerous. Opie absolutely should have taken the baby out of her arms, at least for the sake of safety. But locking yourself in a room while your wife is in agony isn't cool. The baby probably didn't like hearing panicked screaming and banging, etc. either. No one's mental health is being looked after. I remember not wanting to leave the room that my newborn was in, but yes, other people held her. I remember the first time my mum convinced me to take a nap while she held my daughter. I couldn't sleep because I couldn't stop crying about being so far away from my baby. She was 10 feet away in the next room. It is not normal to not want to be separated, but your wife's reaction is definitely over the top and needs to be evaluated by a professional ASAP, as everyone is saying. So you're the asshole for not looking after your family as it spirals out of control. Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for requesting that my brother gives me £20,000 to help me pay for the wedding since he makes a lot more than me?" I, 23 female, am engaged to my fiancé, 27 male. I am also the mother to my daughter who is 4. I wasn't able to go to university full-time since I was raising my daughter. However, I am currently studying history online, where I will hopefully be able to become a history teacher. Balancing studying while raising my daughter hasn't been easy. However, having my fiancé supporting the family has really helped, since my fiancé works in a research lab. We have enough money to live comfortably, but saving up money to have our dream wedding would take years. My brother, 28 male, works as a hospital doctor. His wife also works as a hospital doctor, so to say that they are well off would be an understatement. My brother hasn't had the same struggles of raising a child, since they both don't want any children. I don't mind the fact that they don't have kids, but they have been able to save a lot of money due to this. Recently, I asked my brother if he would be able to help pay for my wedding, since having him contribute to my wedding would help make it a magical moment for me. My brother offered to give me £5,000 towards my wedding, which honestly surprised me. I might be wrong here, but surely as a hospital doctor, my brother should be able to contribute more to my wedding. I told him that I'd really appreciate it if he could give me £20,000 for my wedding, since it would really mean a lot, but he refused. I'd be lying if I said I didn't make my annoyance with my brother clear, and I told him that his refusal to help pay for my wedding is selfish, and that if he doesn't help contribute to my wedding, then he won't be able to come, since it isn't my fault that I don't have a lot of money to fund my wedding. We had an argument afterwards, and I haven't been returning his calls since. The rest of my family is helping to contribute towards my wedding, which makes his refusal even worse. Despite my brother's actions, my father thinks that I'm being too harsh on my brother, and that me not inviting him to my wedding would be upsetting for him. Am I missing something here? Am I the asshole? Now in the comments, you're the asshole, Lamau. He offered you money and he didn't have to. You're entitled. I love how she doesn't mind them not having kids. How open-minded of her. And thinks since they made a choice to remain child-free and are doctors, they should give her money or else they are just selfish, horrible people. OP, you made the choice to have a wedding. You don't need to throw a wedding that costs tens of thousands of dollars you don't have. Scale it back and have the wedding that you can afford and apologize to your brother for your selfishness. You're the asshole. And that it isn't my fault that I don't have a lot of money to fund my wedding. Oh honey, yes it is. You are so the asshole, OP. You're the asshole. Your brother doesn't owe you squat for your wedding, and his offer of 5,000 quid was super generous already. Your behavior is inexcusable, and you should start drafting apologies. Knew coming into this that it was going to be a doozy, and oh boy it didn't disappoint. OP is so entitled. I keep thinking surely this is actually the brother writing it and he'll send the link to her as a wedding present. You're the asshole. You are trying to have a wedding that you can't afford. You are deciding how your brother and sister-in-law should spend their money because they don't have kids. Not your business. That you asked for people to fund your dream wedding, that you turned down the money that your brother generously offered and demanded more, seriously, and that you were willing to exclude your brother from your wedding over this. No one owes you anything. Have a wedding you can actually afford without bankrupting your family and friends in the process. Our next post is titled, Am I the asshole for grounding my son after he decorated his room without his stepmother? I, 47 male, have 2 sons from my past marriage, Abel, 16, and Michael, 15. When I got remarried 6 years ago, Abel was very accepting and got on great with his new stepmom, Laurie. Michael put up a fuss and was adamant about being with his mum full time. I fought like hell to keep him in my custody, but once he hit 13, the agreement changed anyways. He stays with his mum half the month and with us the other half. We moved last year, and Laurie and Abel have spent time decorating Abel's room and making it his own. Michael was offered the same thing recently. Laurie offered to take him to IKEA, Best Buy, and some other store to find some new furniture and have a day to put the room together. He said that he'd think about it, and she respected that, but still showed him paint colors, beds, and stuff to get him excited about it. Last weekend, he came home with a pod full of furniture that his mum bought him. I asked him about it, and he said that his mum helped him pick out the furniture and was coming around in a few to help him build it and arrange everything. I told Laurie as a heads up, and she was absolutely crushed. I took my son aside and told him the kind and fair thing to do would be to invite Laurie to help. He said, nah, and told me that he wanted to build it with his mum. Unbeknownst to me, Laurie did try and join them and asked if they needed help, and my son sent her away and locked the door so she wouldn't come back. After Laurie told me this, I grounded him for the week and told him that at least he'd enjoy the room his mum helped decorate. He of course left early to his mother's and told me that he'd see me on our next rotation. Laurie is saying I shouldn't have grounded him for spending time with his mum, and my ex-wife is saying if I keep treating him like this, I won't see Michael outside of holidays and birthdays. Edit for info. My son told me his mum was coming to help him decorate, and I did say yes, hoping he'd make it a stepmom and mum type of thing. I wasn't expecting him to completely exclude Laurie. And to those who must know why my marriage ended, my wife came out and realized that she couldn't be with me and be her most authentic self. I do not harbor hate towards her. If that can explain why I don't hate my ex-wife, and why my current wife wasn't too upset to see her in the house. The marriage ended as amicable as possible until it came to the custody. Now in the comments, you're the asshole. This is how you end up with a kid going no contact with you as soon as they can. Michael told you he'd think about it. He went a different direction on his room. Even your current wife is on the level that you're in the wrong here. Can we also talk about how he writes mum in italics? I can just hear him sneering at calling her his son's mother. Why do people like OP think their kids are going to like their new wife more than their own parent? It has got to be insanely aggravating. Listen to your ex and Laurie, please. You're the asshole. Edit. If you think the teen in this story isn't being nice or polite, go back and read how OP's wife wants him to back off. Also, underage people are entitled to their feelings. Good luck to y'all having a relationship with the kids in your house when they are adults. You're the asshole. Michael has a mother and isn't interested in a mother-son relationship with your new wife. Michael wanted a new bedroom, you wanted him to have a bonding experience with your wife. He made it clear he is not interested in that. You need to respect his wishes or further risk alienating him. The more you try to force a relationship between your son and your new wife, the more you will make your son resent both her and you. Back off. He is allowed to have his own feelings, even if they don't make you happy. After all, your splitting with his mum and getting remarried made him unhappy, right? This sub is full of adults who had divorced parents, and every single one who had a parent or step-parent try to force a relationship ended up hating those parents. It's nice that Abel is okay with the situation, but if you actually care about Michael's mental health, you will back off for everyone's sake. Am I the asshole for not sharing my hotel room with my family that never plans ahead? My family has a wedding coming up next month. Knowing I would be in the wedding, I went to book my hotel room as soon as I knew the date, about 6 months ago. I was shocked to see that all the nicer hotels in the area were going for $600 per night, which is too much, especially since I'm in the wedding and will stay multiple nights. I ended up just getting a room at an okay hotel near the venue. And for just $10 more a night, at $150, I got upgraded to a corner room. Single room, but larger with a pull-out couch. I told my family about the hotel situation, and I told them to book it now, especially since they wouldn't be charged until check-in and could cancel up until the day before check-in. At the time, they made fun of me for staying at such a budget hotel, basically saying that they wouldn't be caught dead in a place like that, and if it's their first hotel stay since COVID, they want to stay somewhere nicer. A few months go by and the bride messages me to make sure that I booked a room because the hotel prices are ticking up. $800 for the nice hotels and $200 for the budget ones. I tell her that I'm good and remind my family to book ASAP. Well, here we are a month before the wedding and they didn't book a room. They thought the prices would come down as the date got closer. Now the budget hotel is fully booked, and the only hotels within 30 minutes are $1,000 per night. They now want to stay in my room with my husband and I. It would be my parents, sister, brother, and his girlfriend. They want to bring air mattresses. I mean, we technically could fit, but I just feel like they never plan ahead, and I'm always going out of my way to solve their problems. Plus, my husband and I haven't taken any time off since our wedding in 2019, and since we're saving for a house, I don't see us doing another trip anytime soon. I told my family this, but they think that I'm too good for them. I just want to spend some quality time with my husband, and their lack of planning shouldn't derail my weekend. Am I the asshole? Now in the comments, not the asshole. No. You said you wouldn't be caught dead here. I couldn't possibly let you stay here and have to live with that shame. Lack of planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine. Not the asshole, OP, and do not let them stay with you. They can get a pricier room and look for an Airbnb. My dad asked for this exact phrase on a coffee mug, which he brought to work and takes big, long swigs out of in clear view of whomever he wants to read the message. He's the master of being a passive-aggressive operations manager. You should tell your dad about the 7 Ps. Proper prior planning prevents piss-poor performance. I think he would love it. Not the asshole. You are not even really allowed to have that many people in a hotel room. That sounds absolutely ridiculous. If they all want to share a room, they can share the cost of an expensive one. I hope you and your husband have a wonderful time. I think this is a great excuse. OP calls the hotel and asks, am I allowed to sleep 5 extra people on my double bedroom floor in an air mattresses that we bring? They tell her no and whatever the rules are. OP then says, sorry guys, I asked the hotel and they said that it's against the rules and they would kick us out. If OP really wants to help, she can look up places more than 30 minutes away and inform them of where they can book that's an hour away or whatever. They just need to do more driving is all. It isn't like they can't come. Not the asshole. I was just at a Marriott last weekend, and there were a few signs up about only X amount of people allowed in a king room, Y in a double room, absolutely no parties. They are keeping a much closer eye on this than they used to. And you are most definitely not the asshole. Remind them that they looked down their noses at such a budget hotel, and that you told them twice to book one. It is not your fault they didn't, and you have no burden of responsibility to help them fix their mistake. On top of that, with you being in the wedding, I'm sure you'll have enough going on without having to deal with them. Not to mention the hotel itself would surely have a lot to say about it. That many people in one room would probably break fire regulations just for starters. Be firm. It is their problem, not yours. And now, on to the update. First off, thank you everyone for reassuring me and helping me grow a spine and say no. While your responses were coming in, I was frantically compiling hotel options based on distance. My husband just asked me what's the worst that would happen if I didn't go out of my way to solve my family's problem. It just clicked for me. They would figure something out and this doesn't have to be my problem. While I really appreciate what my husband said, having so many people chime in on Reddit really assured me not to take this on. After gathering some courage, I called my parents and told them they could not stay in my hotel room. Besides being against the hotel's policy/fire code, it's not fair to me and my husband. Not surprisingly, they were still giving me the hard sell and finally said, well, you'll have to break the news to your brother and sister. They know I hate ruffling feathers, but with my new spine, I just said fine and hung up. I called my sister to tell her that she couldn't stay with me. She was really confused, and she was shocked at what our parents were trying to do. Evidently, my dad told her that he had taken care of their hotel accommodations months ago. I called my brother and had a similar conversation. My sister really stepped it up and figured out where they could stay. She found a 3-bedroom home on Airbnb that was 20 minutes away and was reasonably priced. My sister thinks our parents subconsciously orchestrated this whole issue to be at the center of the family's attention. My parents became empty nesters at the start of COVID, so this may be a way of acting out. My sister and I are going to check in with them more often and make sure to plan our own hotels going forward. Also, for some clarification, it's not so much that the hotel is bad. It's just right in the shoulder of a freeway interchange and has industrial space on the other side. So my parents wouldn't be caught dead there because of the location rather than the quality of the hotel. Or so they say. The wedding venue is farm, and the only way to get to it is through the California beach town with luxury resorts. Think the Ritz-Carlton. Now in the comments, your sister is probably right about everything but the subconsciously bit. That's what I was going to say. I would recommend against checking in with them more frequently, as it'll just reinforce their belief that acting out will garner positive attention. They need to be ignored whenever they behave this way. It won't stop otherwise. Exactly. It will only reward their bad behavior. They need to be put in time out. Glad it worked out in the end. And I'm so happy that you figured out that you don't have to fix things for other adults. They made the decision to do nothing, so it's their problem to fix. And they tried to triangulate you with your siblings. Another biggie. They are manipulating you. Thank goodness your dear husband pointed it out. Their behavior caused the problem. Their behavior can fix it. Sis should have found somewhere for her and bro and left your parents to solve their own problem. Why do you all jump to solve a problem that they made themselves? Maybe encourage your siblings to back off also. Unexposed is titled, Am I the asshole for not caring about the company image after my boss stole from me? Long post. Had to complete an internship for my degree. I decided to join a startup to learn. Instead, had to figure out everything on my own, zero guidance, and was a glorified salesman instead of learning. Since it was paid, $150 a month, not that much to be honest, and opportunities were rare during COVID, I went along with it, even with his ridiculous targets. I was the best performer, and even I could only get 10% of the target. For internship, I had to work on the social media all by myself, and shoot ads on the days off using equipment that I had begged from friends. 5 months in, he told us at the end of the month that we weren't going to be paid, and wouldn't be paid unless we were meeting his targets. I politely told him I would be leaving, and pointed out I wouldn't even be able to go meet clients without gas money. 25% of my pay was used for gas. He got upset at that, and started talking about how he paid for my salary and took us out for drinks every month. He would pay for the food, we had to buy our own drinks, and how his grandpa was dying and he needed me. I was leaving him when things were bad and was only in it for the money. The other employees left within the next month. I had dropped off a hard disk containing all of my files to his sister, worth about $40, which is significant to a college student. 3 months passed by as I was busy with my report. When I asked for it, he claims to not have it. He cut the call, and his sister called me a half an hour later, swearing she doesn't remember me dropping off anything. I was always dropping stuff off. He told me that I had sent the files to him over mail, which was a lie, because there's a text conversation where he asked me to drop off the files at home. He then talked about how even if I had given him it, it was my responsibility to have come back and taken it back, and started going off about how little my work meant anyway, and that I was not worth a penny of his time. Unfortunately, apart from my screenshot, I didn't have any proof that I ever gave a hard disk. I told a few of my friends, who started commenting on the company's Instagram, asking him to return it, saying that he was a bad boss, and calling the product terrible. Many of them had actually bought it for my sake. It's a very small Instagram page. It has barely 200 followers, so any comments stick out, and now he's calling me, demanding me to take down the comments as it is hurting the company's image, and that I didn't care about the company, and that I just used him. He's also threatening to take legal action for slander. Am I the asshole for not caring about the image, and should I tell my friends to back off? Now in the comments, not the asshole. I get your frustration, and it seems like a bad company. Just one question because I'm a little confused. Did his sister work for the company? And OP replies, no she didn't. The company was run out of his house, with the ground floor acting as the office. I gave it to her because she wasn't at home at the time. Sorry for the confusion. Honestly, still not the asshole, but not the brightest in hindsight to give company stuff to someone who doesn't work for the company. Just a life lesson I guess, but doesn't change my judgment. And OP replies, absolutely. Hindsight is 2020. I guess I've always been too trusting. We'll definitely not repeat this again, and I'm going to make sure to document everything if a similar situation ever pops up. I count myself lucky for having gotten off this cheaply, and that I didn't have any important files in it. Not the asshole. If you don't want bad reviews, don't have shitty management that treats employees bad. OP replies to that, this. I could go into this so much, where every little thing had to be begged for, from everything from days off, not even extra days just to recover from working on the weekend, to being compensated for office work such as Ubers to promotional drivers, business cards, hell, even for basic stationery like printouts. I'm guessing he enjoyed the feeling of power. Okay, so your boss steals your personal belongings, tells you that you will not be paid, and then tries to guilt you into working for free. No, you are not required to care about the company's image. In fact, feel free to throw on their information about how he's trying to get you to work for free if you would like. Not the asshole. Also, you mentioned that at the end of the month he said that he wouldn't pay you for your work. Does that mean he's refusing to pay you for the time that you already worked? Because that is literal wage theft, and you should report it as such. And OP replies, looking back, I should have. But at that point, I was relieved to have an excuse to finally quit with minimal conflict. Besides, I didn't even have a formal contract or anything. I was getting paid from his personal Google Pay, lol. I'm not even sure if this allows me to file for wage theft because of the no documentation. I am mainly worried about getting sued, to be honest. I'm finishing my degree in a couple of weeks and don't want to be dealing with it while I should be out applying for jobs. And now on to the update. I'm so very grateful to all of your responses. I really did feel bad, not about the hard disk, but about him saying all the work I put into the company was worthless. All of you made me genuinely feel better, and I'm very grateful to everyone who took a moment to respond. After my friends had posted, I got a message from the sister the next day, who said that I was being inappropriate, and it showed a lot about my character. I thought this was rich, coming from a person who was either A, willing to lie to my face just to save her brother's ego, or B, was so inept that she didn't even remember me giving her the only ever thing ever. Really had to resist the urge to respond, since my lawyer friend warned me they might be collecting evidence against me. Later that night, at around 10 PM, my dad got a call from my ex-boss, threatening me with legal action. My dad, God bless him, didn't even know who he was, and told him that he shouldn't be disturbing people at night and cut the phone. Only afterwards, when my mum asked who it was, did she inform him that it was my ex-boss, to which he just shrugged and went back to scrolling memes. I got a mild chuckle out of that. My mother asked me about it, and I let her know what he had done. She ended up calling him, and my ex-boss ended up pleading with her to stop the Insta reviews, and even offered to come over and talk to me. She pointed out about the hurtful comments on my work and the unpaid salary, and then cut him off and said she'll see what she could do. She sat me down and told me I could choose to bear a grudge or forgive him, that it was my place to decide, but she felt that it was pointless of me to carry on, since his company seemed doomed anyway. I guess at this point I'd had enough as well, and decided to cut him some slack, asking my friends to knock it off, thanking them for their support. I didn't ask them to delete the comments, my ex-boss could do that himself. Afterwards, the VC who was investing in the startup apparently got to know about this incident and scolded my boss, and even offered to compensate me for the hard disk. He knew about my work for the company pretty well, and was skeptical about the ex-boss's description of the event. I'm fairly satisfied with how things have turned out, and even more about the hard disk. I'm satisfied at having gotten some sense of closure. For a month after leaving the job, I hadn't really slept well and found it a little bit difficult to talk to new people, which was odd for me since I was a complete extrovert before that. I'm hoping it'll get better with time, and I'll be back to my own self soon. Once again, thank all of you for your love. Now in the comments, great. Did you get the compensation? OP replies to that, yup, got the money deposited last night, smiley face. Nice. You should perhaps talk to the VC investor and see if they are hiring. And they reply to that, I did consider it, but at this point I want to put this whole thing behind me and start afresh. I wish you luck. Try and join a union, and although I dislike it, you've now learned how powerful social media is. If you are mistreated, then let them have it. Your boss has no business sense. That ship will probably sink with or without your involvement. Maybe your boss read Rich Dad Poor Dad and decided to enact on it. And thank you for updating. I'm happy everything worked out in your favor. Also, I giggled really hard at the phone call with your dad and Deck's boss. How cute. Would I be the asshole for making my roommate pay to replace my panties? Earlier this year, one of my friends, 29 male, we'll call him Taylor, moved in with my boyfriend, 25 male, we'll call him Charlie, and me, 23 female. Taylor and I worked together and became really close friends. I introduced him to my boyfriend, and now the three of us are friends. However, I am closer to Taylor than my boyfriend is because Taylor and I have bonded over similar traumatic experiences. The other day, Charlie and I left for a little weekend trip. Taylor agreed to take care of our dog while we were away, which we were happy about. Charlie and I have a security camera in our bedroom. This camera is aimed at the bedroom door and the bathroom door. We have a bathroom attached to our room. Minutes after we left, we got a notification that there was motion in our room. We checked the cameras and saw Taylor just standing in our room. Over the next 30 minutes, he went in and out of our room about 7 times. It's important to note that up until this point, we have sincerely valued privacy. We never go in his room unless he states it's okay and vice versa. So we were surprised to see him just walking in on his own. The 8th time he went into our room, we saw him go over to my dresser and dig through my panty drawer. He picked out a pair of panties, pulled down his boxes and pants, put my panties on, and then put his boxes and pants back on over it. A few minutes later, he returned wearing one of my tank tops when he noticed the camera. He slowly backed out of the room, but then he returned later and continued digging through my panty drawer. He returned multiple times later to dig through my panties. All of this is recorded and saved on video. Seeing how he invaded our privacy and wore my underwear made me feel sick and needs to be addressed. We don't want to make Taylor feel ashamed for cross-dressing, but what he did with my clothing was disgusting. I know as soon as we get back home, I'm going to throw away all of my underwear, and Charlie is going to install a deadbolt on our bedroom door. We don't feel comfortable confronting him about it until we return home and are able to deadbolt our door. Would I be the asshole if I made him pay to replace all my underwear and pay for the hardware for our bedroom deadbolt? The only reason I need those things now is because he invaded my privacy. Edit for clarification, Taylor is better friends with me than he is with Charlie. Between the two guys, I'm obviously closer to my boyfriend. I do not prefer Taylor over my boyfriend, Charlie. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I feel like I might be the asshole because he could be struggling with his gender identity, and I don't want to shame him for that. Making him pay to replace all my panties and pay for a deadbolt could be an overreaction. Now in the comments, not the asshole. WTF. It's not that he wears women's clothes, it's that he invaded your room and wore yours. Yes, he should replace your clothes, then he needs a new place to live. Even if he likes cross-dressing, it's very unhygienic for both him and OP. It would have been easier for him to buy a fresh pair. Not the asshole. Worth noting that for some people, it's not about the cross-dressing as much as it is about violating the boundaries of a person or persons. The fact that he seems to have seen the camera and was only temporarily put off suggests that this is at least partially about the specific act of wearing the clothes without their owner realizing it. And probably about OP specifically. Because if it was just about the clothes, the realization that he might be caught on camera would be a stronger deterrent. Only somebody set on wearing specific underwear, and probably the added titillation of the risk of getting caught, would think doing this in front of a security camera is less risky than just making a discreet online purchase. Not the arsehole. Cross-dressing is one thing, raiding your panty drawer and invading your privacy is another. When you talk to him, make sure to lead with that you support people of that lifestyle, and if that's what he was doing, then he needs to buy his own clothes for it. I'd make him pay for the panties, deadbolt, and tell him that he's out when the lease is up. I wouldn't stand for that level of disrespect. It has nothing to do with his identity, only the invasion. Not the asshole. But to be honest, I'm a little concerned here. Are you sure it's just cross-dressing and not something sexual for him? And OP replies, I'm not completely clear on the motivation here. I'm still out of town. Charlie and I don't feel comfortable confronting him until we're back home and able to install a lock on our door. I know that for people who suffered the same trauma as Taylor and I, it is extremely common to have an identity crisis. That is the only reason I think it is non-sexual towards me. Either way, I won't have any solid answers about it until I get home. Once we get home, then we will decide whether or not we want to spend all of our savings to move out and get a new place without Taylor. And further down, OP provides an update and says, first of all, thank you for all of the awards and responses. I didn't expect my post to blow up like it did. Secondly, this is just a brief update. Things are still happening, and I've been home for less than 24 hours. Now on to the quick update. Things are still unfolding. My boyfriend and I returned home last night. All the clothes that my roommate potentially touched have been thrown away and replaced. My boyfriend Charlie confronted our roommate Taylor. It didn't turn violent, which I'm grateful for. We are in contact with multiple people about our next steps, but for now, my pets and I are safe. I will post another update in the future as things play out. I really appreciate all the advice and support. These past few days have been pretty tough and emotionally draining. I'm pretty devastated that a person that I love like a brother could betray my trust like this. Thank you, Reddit. And now on to the update. Thank you for all of the advice and support. You guys really helped me make an informed decision. I left out some details intentionally because thinking about it and making it public was just too disturbing, and I was in denial. Taylor went in my nightstand to look at and handle my adult toys, and he dug through my hamper to presumably look for used underwear. Now on to the update. Taylor denied everything. Despite the fact that we had it all on video, he tried to make up different reasons why he was in there, tried to downplay it, said he only came in to look around, and then said that he doesn't remember ever entering our room. We told him he could either move out, go to therapy, or we could move out and he would have to find new roommates. He basically told us no. He said we had no authority to kick him out, and that blackmailing him with the videos was illegal. Unfortunately, he was on our lease, so there wasn't much we could do without taking legal action. So we got to work. We started looking for a new place to live, started looking for a lawyer, filed a police report, and made plans to file for a restraining order. But every single day, I was constantly anxious at work and fearful in my own home, because it was clear that he had absolutely no remorse. After about a week with no sleep and constant fear, I finally spoke to my boss about the situation. My concerns were taken seriously, and they immediately began taking steps to help me. I showed them the videos, and they agreed that his actions were completely unacceptable, and due to the nature of our work, he is considered a liability and a danger to other employees. They made sure that I was in a safe place before they suspended him while they investigated him. During his suspension, I met with my bosses where they continued to support me and ensure my safety. They also made plans to terminate him as he also had multiple negative performance reports. So this whole deal was the nail in the coffin. However, Taylor quit before they had the chance to fire him. The day after he quit, he got all of his crap out of the apartment and signed documents removing himself from the lease. He has not attempted to contact me since. This whole situation has been extremely emotionally draining. It has caused a lot of painful memories and emotions to resurface. Looking back on our friendship now, I can recall multiple red flags in which he crossed clear personal boundaries I set. I can't believe he was ever someone I trusted and loved like a brother. But for now, he is out of our lives and I am relieved. I'm still living with my parents, but I plan on moving back as soon as the apartment locks get changed. That's all I've got for now. Now in the comments, some people are unbelievable. How he denied everything when you had it on video? It would be hilarious if it wasn't so disturbing. So sorry you had to go through this, OP. Sending you lots of love. Hope you and your boyfriend can move back into your home soon. I like how he said that she was blackmailing him and that was illegal. It's not blackmail, it's evidence. It would have been blackmail had OP threatened Taylor, say for embarrassing photos. Making reference to legal action like eviction, etc. isn't blackmail. I remember reading the original post and being so concerned for your safety, the safety of your boyfriend, and the safety of your animals. You handled a difficult situation like a boss. Hoping you can put it all past you, and I cannot fathom going through that. OP replies, "It has been difficult coming to terms with everything, but I have no regrets for how I handled things. For once in his life, Taylor actually experienced consequences for his actions. Good on you. You were super brave. Men like that need to be shown what's up. Let's hope he thinks twice about violating a woman again. And I hope you get some well-deserved rest." Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for offering to pay a portion of my daughter's rent?" My daughter, who is 20, is planning to move out. I am proud of her, but the problem is that she doesn't make a lot of money and is planning to move in with her best friend. They are planning to move into a studio apartment. It is in an area with higher crime, the building is also a bit older, and it's also really far from her work, and she also made a comment about her friend also having a bit of a commute too. I talked to her about it and offered her some money if she wanted to get a better apartment. I can afford it, and I think both of them will prefer not having to share spaces and having rooms on their own. I am offering this money with no strings attached. I tried to convey that it's just a suggestion and that I would not be mad if she did turn it down. She, however, was upset by my offer. I think for some reason it hurt her. I think my wife also wants me to let her be and make her own choices. I understand that, but I feel she shouldn't have to suffer just for suffering's sake. She has been avoiding this issue, which is strange, because she's always been a person who is willing to speak her mind. I think I'm an asshole here because I may have inadvertently implied that she was not adult enough to make her own way in life. That is not what I meant to do at all. She is in college, she is working a job, and she is making enough to get an apartment. I did the same thing years ago, and I still remember how tough it got at some points. I just want to help her so that she doesn't have to do it on her own, like I had to. Now in the comments, no assholes here. You want her to be safe, and that's understandable, obviously. However, I'm sure that she was upset because offering assistance like that kind of makes it seem like you don't think she can survive on her own. I would just tell her the offer stands and let her make her own decision. And OP replies, "Honestly, I would get it if she was a bit angry about it. Instead, she's quiet like she's hiding something, which is really strange as she's someone who has very firm opinions and is not afraid of disagreeing with me or anyone else. I fear that I may have really hurt her for her not to get angry or state her opinion. She just brushed it off. She looked sad and has been avoiding the topic ever since. I think she hoped that you would be proud of her for her choice in where and how to live, and instead, you implicitly criticized her choices. So she is hurt instead of angry. She's quiet because now she's questioning or is embarrassed about her own choices, instead of being mad at you for your response. This, and also, maybe she's a bit conflicted. She probably felt really proud for paying for the apartment on her own. Now that she has this option, she's struggling with being independent, paying on her own with all of the problems that come with it, versus letting you pay for a bit, but not feeling as it is her achievement. Exactly. She was all, look at how grown up and responsible I am. I chose a place I can afford, even though it means making all these sacrifices, lack of privacy, long commute, less safety, etc. Because I am a mature adult who puts living within her means first. Aren't you proud? And poor well-meaning dad was like, oh sweet summer child, you chose a place that has so many things wrong with it. You should have just asked me for help. Let me make it better for you. No assholes here. You have good intentions, but sounds like she's trying to pave her own way. Just tell her that you are proud of her and are happy to see her being independent, but that she can come to you if she needs anything. Info. If she already has friends that live in that area, saying that it's in an area with higher crime might be extremely offensive to her, as if you were insinuating that her friends are criminals. Not that you are, but she might take it that way. Also, have you considered that maybe her best friend is her girlfriend? Maybe I'm projecting, but I know plenty of girls who told their dad they were moving in with their best friends who were actually their girlfriends. I kind of get that energy off of your reply where you said, instead, she's quiet like she's hiding something. And OP replies to that, I don't think she has friends living in that area. If she had mentioned a few friends, I think I would be a bit less worried. And to your second point, I don't know. It's not something I've considered. I don't know. I was thinking this too, especially since you mentioned it's a studio apartment. If that's the case, it might have put her in a hard place to refuse without giving an explicit detail that she isn't ready to share. Either way, not the asshole for the offer. And now on to the update. I read almost all the comments there, and it really drove home why my daughter may have felt offended by my offer to help pay her rent. I think I've been going off on my own experiences and how rough they were. I had a particularly rough time in my 20s, and if someone had offered me money, I would have probably accepted it and cried about it. But she doesn't face the same issues, and I realized I was offering help based on what I needed back then and not what she needs right now. I talked to her about it. I told her that I was incredibly proud of her being independent and moving. I was sure that she was choosing the best decision she could with the money she had. I also told her that I would be budgeting an amount every month, and if she wanted, she could have it no questions asked. Something that a commenter suggested. She turned down the money, but I think she understood where I was coming from and that I didn't ever mean to imply she couldn't cut it in the real world. She's moving to the same place. I also had some commenter ask if my daughter and her friend were in a relationship. I don't know. I did some reading on this and it seems the best thing you can do is not pry and generally just be supportive. I don't know how to talk about it as I don't generally talk about stuff, and I don't know how to do it in a subtle manner. I talked to my wife about it, and she said she had the same suspicions, and she's not sure about it either, but she said that she wouldn't be surprised if they were together. Honestly, I think some part of me would be bothered by it, but at the same time, I am reading about it online and with books. I have realized that I have many dead wrong preconceptions to work through and get over. I need to work on this and get better. Now in the comments, oh yeah, if they are gay, that adds an extra layer. I don't know if that person spelled this out for you, but early financial independence is a big deal in the LGBTQ community because it means your parents can't pull the rug out when you come out. Even when people aren't sure how mum and dad will react. They have seen and heard about enough friends on the street that they play it safe. My own sister made sure that she had her own house, her own car, and her own health insurance before she even told me. Our parents in turn were like, cool, but like, they didn't have any options, any leverage. It was, you accept this or we don't talk anymore, and I do it anyway. And to be honest, that's the way to do it when you were not sure. It beats homelessness and prostitution. I realize you're not looking at it that way, but for a lot of people, that extra money is a bargaining chip. And even if it isn't, people don't always act rationally when caught off guard. What if it wasn't strangers on the internet who pointed this out while you sat comfortably at home? What if you found out in a more heat-of-the-moment way? Can you honestly say one of your first thoughts wouldn't have been, wait, I'm paying for her to live with her girlfriend? You said that you've had to do some research to understand and come to grips with just the possibility. You don't have time for all of that when you catch them holding hands or making out, and that would be a single moment that would immediately cost them financial stability. They'd have to move and break the lease on a place they couldn't afford in the first place, all while dealing with the emotional turmoil of irate parents. It is a terrifying thought. And someone else says, it sounds like you've really learned from this experience, and that is great. Just remember that your daughter is the exact same person she is now as she was on the day she was born. Her sexual orientation isn't something that she can control. So if you love your girl, and it sounds like you do, you will love all of her, including the things that she cannot and shouldn't have to change. Am I the asshole for taking away my wife's access to our money? I have been married to my wife, Ashley, for 7 years. I am the only one that works. Ashley spends her time volunteering at a charity she started. I am fine with this as I make enough for the both of us. In financial decisions, we have equal say. I will admit that I am the numbers nerd of the relationship, so I do the budget and handle our investments. My wife has equal input into the budget. We both have to agree on it. Like many people, we are saving for retirement and a couple of other financial goals. Ashley's sister and her family are going through a lot of financial issues at the moment. My brother-in-law lost his job, and my sister-in-law is reaching out to my wife for help. They are asking for us to cover their monthly expenses. I said no. While we have some discretionary money, we don't have that much. Both my wife and I get fun money to spend however we wish each month. I told my wife that I would match whatever amount of her fun money that she wants to give her sister from my fun money. My wife doesn't want to do that. She says that won't be enough money. She wants us to reduce the amount that we are saving each month to help her sister. I refused. I do not want to jeopardize my family's future for her sister's present. Ashley was very unhappy with my answer, but I refused to change my mind. I found out last week that my wife gave her sister money out of our general savings account. I was furious. To me, this is a complete betrayal of trust. I confronted her, and her reply was that I forced her to go behind my back by being unreasonable. I was angry. I ended up going to the bank and opening up new accounts in my name only. I moved the balances to my new accounts. I left in enough money for the expenses that she typically pays according to our budget, as well as her fun money. I did not leave her without access to any money. I did leave her with access only to money that she is supposed to spend according to the budget that we both agreed to. I went home and told her what I had done. She is accusing me of financially abusing her. I pointed out that she is the one that abused my trust, not the other way around. That it is on her to prove to me that she is worthy of my trust, because after what she did, I don't trust her anymore. She said that if that was the case, she should just leave. That she wasn't going to be treated as a child. I told her to leave then because I wasn't going to give her the opportunity to steal from me again when it is clear she isn't even sorry for what she did. She left to stay with her sister. I believe I am completely justified for what I have done. She is the one that broke our agreement. Did I take it too far though? This was the first time she ever did anything like this. Did I let anger get the best of me? And am I the asshole for taking away her access to money? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I believe that I have every right to be angry, and that what Ashley did was a betrayal of our agreement on how we are going to do finances in our marriage. However, now that I'm not quite as angry, I have to wonder if my response, taking away her access to the money, was out of proportion to her actions. Did I go too far? Now in the comments, not the asshole. You nailed it there at the end. She stole from you. No excuse. My husband and I have a similar financial arrangement, and I simply cannot imagine doing what your wife did. Such a betrayal. So she's gone to stay with her sister, the one who's broke. So now there's another mouth to feed in that house, and she's going to essentially be the sole provider for that household out of her own money. I think she'll be back. The question is whether OP will want her back. Betrayal is exactly the word. OP made a reasonable suggestion for the amount of financial help they could offer her sister's family, but that wasn't good enough. She stole from the person she is supposed to be in love with, who has supported her financially for the duration of the marriage, and then even had the nerve to claim financial abuse when OP moved to protect his hard-earned assets. He is definitely not the asshole. I came here ready to think that you were an asshole from the title, but I think that what your wife did was awful. You said you would contribute the same amount of fund money as she did to her sister, doubling the loan effectively, and your wife went behind your back to unilaterally take joint funds so her fund money won't be affected. You are not the asshole. Your wife is being an unreasonable mooch. Normally, I hate how quick Reddit is to tell people to dump their partners, but if you don't have kids, now is a great time to consider whether you could handle a lifetime of this person and this behavior. And now, on to the update. Well, it looks like the posters that commented that my marriage is doomed were correct. First, after reading the posts, I agreed that it was not fair that I had access to our savings and she did not, even though she gave some away without my consent. Following the advice of several posters, I contacted my bank and I found that the account could be changed so that while both of us could deposit money, it would take both of our signatures to take money out of the account. This would give her the same control over the accounts that I had by putting them under my name. I contacted Ashley to let her know that I would put the money back in the joint account if we switched the account to require both of our signatures. She said no, that just showed that I didn't trust her. I told her I didn't. She had taken money without my consent. Of course I didn't trust her. She refuses to change the account, I refuse to give her unrestricted access, so right now I am still the only one with access to the money. We also tried marriage counseling, another suggestion that posters brought up multiple times. The counselor asked both of us to say what we thought was wrong with our relationship. Ashley said that I had abused her by taking away her access to money. I said that Ashley had broken my trust by giving away money without my consent. It took a few sessions, but it became pretty clear that we just weren't going to see things the same way. I wasn't going to commit to supporting her sister's family, and she refused to see giving them money without my consent as a breach of trust. The kicker came when it got to be close to the end of the month, and Ashley demanded, not asked, demanded that I put $3,000 in the account for her to use to pay her sister's bills. Her reasoning was since she stayed there, we owed it to them. I told her that she was being ridiculous, and that if I wouldn't do that while we were together, why in the world would I do it now? She walked out of the session and told me that she wouldn't continue counseling until I agreed. I contacted a lawyer and filed for a legal separation and will be filing for divorce. I found that I'm legally obligated to pay usual and ordinary bills of the household, but I'm not required to pay any bills for where she moved to since she left voluntarily. So I'm doing what I'm required to do, including things like paying for her car insurance and her cell phone, but I am not giving her access to any other funds. She has asked, more like demanded, that I give her money as she will be getting it when we divorce. But I don't have a way of making sure whatever she is given comes out of the final settlement, so I am refusing. Now in the comments, I can't stress this enough, obey your attorney. Do not take the high road, man up, or any of the other BS things that people are going to tell you that you need to do. You only need to obey your attorney. That's it. I'm sorry this happened to you. And Dopey replies, I am listening to my lawyer. I intend on giving my soon-to-be ex-wife everything she is entitled to according to our prenup, but I am not stupid enough to give her a penny more. Outstanding. I allowed myself to be played by my ex. I did what I thought was the right thing, and I'm getting punished hard for it nearly a decade later. Meanwhile, sister-in-law is sitting back, rubbing her hands together, waiting for the divorce payout money that she'll convince her sister to hand over to her. She needs to wake up to her attitude. Helping her sister is one thing, but what she did and how she went about it are very entitled. I hope no kids are involved. Have you spoken to your sister-in-law and explained what her financial demands have caused? And OP replies, we do not have children, I have not spoken to sister-in-law. That's a relief. Do you think your sister-in-law is manipulating your wife? And OP says, as much as I wish I could blame all of this on sister-in-law, no. I think my wife's actions are her own idea. Sorry to hear that. Listen to your lawyer, block her phone and her sister's too. Keep all communication from her between her and your lawyer. If that's not possible, only communicate with her by email so everything is written down. And our next post is titled, Am I the asshole for not wanting to invite brother-in-law and sister-in-law to my wedding? My partner and I have been together for 8 years, which is the same time as my brother-in-law and sister-in-law. Brother-in-law is my partner's brother. Her and I have never been close, but we never had any issues with each other. We were civil at family gatherings. I have always invited them to my kids' birthdays, mine and my partner's birthday dinners, baby showers, etc. Her and I have had many chats about different things at these occasions, but outside of that, we don't see each other. My partner and brother-in-law own a rental property. My partner and I, a few years back, wanted to use some of the equity to buy our own place, but brother-in-law wouldn't allow it, so we found our own way to get a loan. 12 months later, brother-in-law asked my partner to use the equity, and my partner agreed. He wanted to see him get ahead and didn't make a fuss. 4 years ago, brother-in-law wanted to sell, but my partner didn't. The boys made an agreement that if it didn't sell, it would go back as a rental. It didn't sell, so since then, it has earned them both a small income. Recently, brother-in-law and sister-in-law announced that they were having a baby. I was genuinely excited for them, as I know brother-in-law has longed to have children. I had picked out baby presents for her shower, and also some stuff for Christmas this year. Giving is what makes me happy. Brother-in-law wants to move from the suburbs and out to acreage, so he approached my partner about selling the investment again, and my partner said no because of the agreement between them years back, but also because of the equity thing that he believed he has helped his brother more than enough. So sister-in-law isn't happy that my partner hasn't agreed to sell, and at family gatherings has ignored me and disrespected me. She has made snide remarks and just made me feel lower than dirt. I asked mother-in-law to find out what I had done, and sister-in-law deflected the attention off her and back onto me, saying she didn't want anything to do with me because of something I did 8 years ago, and because of the way that I parent my children. I am firm but fair, and my children have respect, and she wouldn't go into detail in this thing. Sister-in-law had her baby shower that I wasn't invited to. I was hurt that I was the only family member excluded from this, and have told my mother-in-law that I won't be at any more family things. She can see what's going on, but doesn't want to cause a big drama. My wedding is next September, and I have firmly told the family that I will not be inviting them. I don't feel that someone who doesn't like me as much as she has made out should be at my wedding. Now I'm being told not to stoop to her level just because she hasn't gotten her way, and I should invite them. Am I the asshole? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I may be the asshole for stooping to sister-in-law's level and treating her as she did to me by not inviting her to my wedding. Now in the comments, not the asshole. I'm sorry. This is frustrating and hurtful. No, you don't need to invite them. Will it cause some tension? Yes. But then again, you've already got a lot of tension already. What it comes down to for me is that you need to enjoy your wedding day. It's a celebration, and you don't need a black hole of nastiness sucking up your happiness during your wedding day. Info. Does your fiancé want his brother at the wedding? And OP replies, he hasn't said yes or no. He has said that he will support my decisions and does understand why I feel this way. This is part of the reason that I feel like the asshole. I would love to invite just the brother. He hasn't treated me any different since the brother's disagreement and keeps me out of their rental property business as purely and simply it is none of my business. It sucks that your hubby is essentially making this your call. He needs to get an opinion and then tell you his opinion. By him sitting neutral, he's setting you up to take the fall either way. You don't invite them, you drove a wedge into the family. You do invite them, your fault that your sister-in-law causes a scene that ruins your memories of the wedding. You can't win either way. I don't blame you at all for not inviting the sister-in-law, but inviting the brother. Your husband-to-be can't set you up like this. Not the asshole. She's made it clear she doesn't want anything to do with you. This includes not receiving an invite to the wedding. However, if your partner would like to invite his brother without a +1, that should still be an option. And OP replies, inviting just the brother is something I would do. However, I know that he wouldn't accept the invite without her, and it would cause more drama. I love his family like my own, and I would hate to add fuel to the fire. And now back to the post, there is an edit. Wow, there are so many comments to reply to. I'm going to add it here that hopefully you guys read this. So my partner has never liked sister-in-law either, and from the way she acts, she doesn't really like him either. My partner has no filter, which can come across as confronting, and you may not like what he has to say, but that's just who he is. He doesn't bullcrap to make anyone happy. He is also a very amazing, caring guy who just says it how it is. Sister-in-law has also caused a lot of problems between the brothers for years, so the brothers seem to have this very on-off relationship, as she is a very headstrong woman, and brother-in-law obviously wants to keep her happy. Fair enough. Like, I get that. My partner is the type of guy that if you don't like him, he doesn't let it bother him. He doesn't waste his time on crap like that. The only reason this is now affecting him is because of how upset it has got me. I was brought up in a European family strong unit, and basically, family is family, and to respect each other. Now I know I haven't done anything to actually upset sister-in-law, and that she is just tarring me with the same brush because of the sale of the house, and that she hasn't gotten her way, which she is obviously used to doing with brother-in-law. The whole family can see what she's doing, but it seems that no one actually wants to say anything further, as mother-in-law caused a bit of tension when this all started, with her trying to stand up for me, and because there's a baby on the way, mother-in-law is worried about being cut off. It seems like the rest of the family is just enabling the behavior, and they aren't confrontational people. I usually don't care and will confront someone, but because this family has gone through a lot of crap with the brothers fighting in the past, I am reluctant to start another war. To me, the brothers' house is their business, nothing to do with me nor her, regardless of if we are married or not. It's not mine or sister-in-law's investment. My partner has said that if I don't want them, more particularly sister-in-law, at the wedding, he supports my decision and understands how I'm feeling. He hasn't left the entire situation up to me, it's just that he doesn't really care if they are invited or not. At the end of the day, I'm against not inviting them, because it goes against my family morals. But why would I want someone there who dislikes me so much because they didn't get their own way, when not even 12 months ago she came and sat near me at dinner and asked how the wedding plans and ideas were going? And now onto the update. Hey all, I wanted to give an update on my previous post. Thank you to all, I read every comment and replied to what I could. A lot of people asked if my partner was just unfiltered to be an asshole, and I may not have worded it right. He doesn't go out of his way to be that way. For example, if I found a dress I really liked and he didn't think that it suited, he wouldn't say that it looks nice. He's always honest, which a lot of people find harsh or don't like his honesty. Okay, so partner and I had a big blow up after my post, and I had told them that not making a decision with me, but leaving it up to me and not sticking up for me with his family was making things a lot worse. I found out that his sisters and father had in fact confronted brother-in-law and sister-in-law about their behavior, and mother-in-law had confronted them on more than a few occasions. My partner didn't want to tell me, at risk of upsetting me further, because they didn't get anywhere. So together, we have decided not to invite them and to cop the backlash when the invites go out. The other reason this cemented the decision was our niece was born 4 weeks ago, and everyone in the family but us was notified. We don't have Facebook or any other contact with them other than phones, so that was another low blow. The house, on the other hand, may possibly be going up for sale, as we've had a great investment coming up for sale near us that we could possibly afford. So fingers crossed that we can sever ties and be done. Thanks for all of your comments. And now in the comments, good riddance. Family is only good when they support each other. Your brother-in-law and sister-in-law have never made any effort to actually be your family. I'm glad you guys decided you wanted to sell. I mean, if a property is really going to separate part of family, maybe it's not worth staying tied to it. Please stick to your guns. Your sister-in-law is just being petty towards you, and I say that because it's ridiculous to be upset over property that she isn't even involved in. She took it personally out on you guys, and you were excluded from many important events. I'm glad the other family members said something to her, but now that you've declared you won't be in contact with them anymore, they need to step up. She herself needs to be banned from functions. If the only reason they want to stick around her is for the baby that's there, it's really not a healthy dynamic, nor is it something worth sticking around for. Other children will come. It won't be the only one in the family. Good luck, and have a good time at your wedding. Would I be the asshole for throwing every wrestling match I am forced to attend? My 15-male school has recently restarted all of the sports programs after almost a year of no or limited activity. Before that, I was part of the swim team, one of the smaller groups at our school. I love swimming, and it really sucked that we couldn't go for such a long time. With the restart, the school also made a new system. Every student writes down 3 different after-school activities in order of interest. So one choice is your favorite, second your second favorite, and so on. The teachers in charge of the groups then pick the students. First pick is students who already belong to the groups before lockdown, second pick is then random, and third pick is if there are still places left open in the group. Since I was part of the swim team before, and put it down as my first choice, I would basically be guaranteed to get in. But now the results are out and I was placed in wrestling. I never even put that on my list at all, so I went to the teacher and asked what was going on. Turns out the teacher in charge of wrestling specifically requested me for whatever reason. Turns out my dad knows the wrestling teacher quite well and asked for me to be placed on the team. I know my dad hates that I prefer swimming. He always says that it's not a real sport and that I should do some sport that actually gives me muscles. He constantly tells me I'm too skinny for a guy and has made several attempts to make me go to the gym to work out. I asked the teachers if I can still switch teams, but they say no. I also cannot avoid going to the wrestling club because after-school activities are mandatory. So last night, I had a huge fight with my dad. I called him an ass for forcing me to go to wrestling and that I'll just forfeit every single match I have to attend. He threatened me, saying if I do that, he will take away my electronics and I'll only be allowed to leave the house for school and nothing else. My mum said I should have the right to choose whatever sport I want, but now that I'm on the wrestling team, I should still do my best. Also, not to call my dad an ass. But I don't want to participate in something that I have zero interest in. I was forced into even. Also, I was really looking forward to swimming again and meeting my teammates. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I may be the asshole because throwing matches doesn't help anyone. I kinda hope to get kicked off the team though, so I can choose a different club. Now in the comments, complain to your principal. This backroom deal between your father and the wrestling coach does not sound fair. To you or anyone else who trusted the voting system. Fight this placement. You deserve swim team, not the asshole. And OP replies, I can try to request a talk with the principal. We can't just walk in and talk to him. You have to first go to a teacher, and then secretary, and so on. But yeah, I will complain to my teachers. This isn't fair. Not the asshole. That's ridiculous, and also, your dad doesn't think swimming gives you muscles? Less manlier sports like gymnastics, and even areas like dancing can be just as good for the body as more conventionally physical sports like football and wrestling, and great for stamina, hand-eye coordination, and straight-up perseverance. Look at Nightwing in the comments. Background is a trapeze artist with an acrobatic movement style, and he's one of the sexiest DC characters for good reason. Not the asshole, but there are plenty of assholes in your story. Dad, coach, and mom. I forced my kids to do stuff when they were your age, but only after they themselves had asked to join an activity. We had a 1-semester rule. If you yourself want to play soccer, you don't get to come and go to practice as you wish because of Xbox or quit mid-season. Also, wrestling isn't just any sport. It is a combat sport that isn't for everyone. To force a young man to wrestle against his will is more bonkers than to force someone to swim. But don't call your dad an ass if you want him to listen to your argument. And back to the post. Edit. Thanks so far for the support. Next week I will talk to more teachers, guidance teacher, and also write to the principal. I guess I'll also try to talk with my mum again and maybe convince her. Also, we'll mention what some people wrote, that wrestling could potentially be dangerous, and maybe that'll convince her. Worst case, I will go through with it and just put in 0 effort if no one listens to me. Edit 2. So this has gotten a lot more responses than I thought. First of all, thanks to everyone for supporting me. I talked to my mum again without my dad nearby, and she still thinks that I should give wrestling a try, but if I really want to change, she will support me. So next week I will go and talk first to my swim coach and the wrestling coach, and hopefully get it resolved. Otherwise, I will go further to the principal. I can post an update next week and tell you guys how things worked out. Some of you suggested that I should go to the newspaper or something, but I really do not feel comfortable blowing things up like that. Slandering the school is going to backfire like 100%. I have also gotten a lot of creative things instead of just throwing the match. I would like to show my face in public sometimes, so no, I will ignore most of the really weird suggestions, but thanks, I guess. I also got a few questions about the rule of afternoon activities being mandatory. So we have to do activities for 2 years total, but we are free to choose when we do them during high school. We can choose between a lot of club activities offered by the school, not just sports, but all kinds of activities. Music, art, reading and writing clubs, gardening, or even game design. School club activities are always free, and if you require financial assistance for like an instrument or so, I think you can also get financial aid. But I don't really know the details. Additionally, if we attend a club or regular activity outside of school, we can also get credits for that. Just need to work it out with the teachers. We also don't get grades or something, it's just noted on our final report. I also do not really know what happens if you don't complete them. And now onto the update. So I wanted to write an update after the situation has been resolved. First things first, I'm back on the swim team, for now. Today was a really weird and awkward day. First opportunity, I went to talk to my swim coach and explain the whole situation and that I'm not willing to stay on the wrestling team. He was pretty mad at my dad as well as the wrestling coach, so he took me to the secretary and explained the whole thing and asked her to change the list. She was in turn quite mad because apparently the whole system is a big mess. I'm not even remotely the only student who was misplaced. So then the secretary called in my homeroom teacher. There was a lot of accusation. I was just standing there feeling awkward. Really weird to see 3 adults being mad at each other. In the end, I was basically told by all 3 to just ignore the whole thing and that I can just join the swim team if I want to. I figured that was it, until the end of the school day. Then the wrestling coach had me come to his office. He gave me a long talk about how disappointed he is, how he had high hopes for me, blah blah blah. I told him I don't really care, and that he was a jerk for just ignoring what I want to do. To sum up, wrestling coach got mad at me, homeroom teacher mad at me for complaining, swimming coach mad at school, and my dad is probably gonna freak out when he hears that I won't wrestle. Oh well. Lastly, I want to thank all the people that encouraged me to stand up for myself. You had a lot of good advice, and some really weird advice, and some really terrible but funny advice. Thank you all. Small update. Mum told Dad about the switch as he came home from work. He has so far completely ignored me. Not a single word. Actually a nice outcome, I guess. And last update, I wanted to add a last point here. Last night, I had a talk with my dad and my mom. It was awkward. Dad apologized for the wrestling thing, but also said that he wants me to grow up strong so that I can defend myself. He says swimming won't help me when I get in trouble. I was really confused about that because I never really have been bullied or gotten in trouble or something like that. Mum later told me that my dad used to get bullied a lot in high school, so he started working out in college and that helped him a lot. I guess he wanted me to do the same. It's really weird at home at the moment, but I guess he's not a complete arse. Still kinda, but I don't know. Now in the comments, in regards to your comment about it being odd seeing all the teachers mad at each other, the only adult I can see is your swim coach. Everyone else is behaving like a bunch of manipulative mini-dictators who are bummed that they got caught out screwing with a young adult who knows his own mind by now. That's why it looks so weird. If your dad flips, show him the original thread. And if your dad reads this, you are the epicenter of the mess. It is entirely your fault. Don't take it out on your kid. I think the secretary is just an overworked bureaucrat who had the responsibility of setting this whole system up thrust upon her. So I don't think she's to blame at all. It sounds like from her perspective, she gave instructions to the people involved, and those people likely didn't follow her instructions either by negligence or malice. That kind of a scenario is par for the course for all these systems that we're coming up with to solve problems caused by COVID. Haphazard plans, poorly executed by people without the power or time to enforce their rules, manipulated by people who have their own ideas about how things should run. I'm still kinda baffled that your dad thinks that swimming won't get you in shape. He's the true asshole of the story. OP replies, he would probably say Michael Phelps is way too skinny to be a real man. Maybe I should point out how stretched my dad's shirts are from his beer belly. Is he aware that wrestlers routinely cut weight like hell? Good luck, man. Your dad is acting like a real dick here. I hope he wises up. Unexposed is titled, Am I the Asshole for Asking to Postpone a Punishment for Losing a Hockey Bet? I, 24 male, am originally from Denver, but I currently live in Las Vegas. My best friend Jermaine, also 24 male, has lived in Vegas for most of his life. We are both massive hockey fans. I've been an Avalanche fan for as long as I can remember, and Jermaine is proud to say that he's been a VGK fan since day one. When it was announced that the Avs and the VGK were going to face off during the 2021 Stanley Cup playoffs, we had to make a bet. We decided that the fan of the losing team will get their haircut by the winner. The Avs lost, and I will accept the haircut, but not right now. All I asked was if we can postpone it by a few weeks. We never set a date for when the haircut has to take place, but I'm due to serve as a groomsman for my sister's wedding 2 weekends from now. I at least owe it to her to have some nice wedding pictures, and not another reminder that her brother is an idiot and that our team lost to the most hated team in the West Division. Jermaine, on the other hand, thinks that I should suck it up and take the haircut when he so demands it. As I said before, our friends are split on the issue, but a few more are siding with Jermaine on the grounds that a bet is a bet. I'm posting here for an outside opinion. Am I the asshole? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. Even though I'm only asking to delay the punishment until after the wedding, I can see why it's an asshole move on my part. Jermaine and I made a deal over the outcome of the playoffs. It is only honorable that I, as the loser, carry out those terms, even if it's at the expense of pissing off my sister. Now in the comments, not the asshole. You made the bet, not your sister. Your buddy shouldn't be punishing your sister for your sports bet, even if you do like the same team. Jermaine is going to get his due out of you in a couple of weeks. What's it matter if it's now or then? He's not a bookie, and this was in good fun. It's not like you intend to pull back on the bet. Just tell him that it's not for you, it's for your sister. If he really is your best friend, he should understand. And to soften the blow, offer to let him shave dumb stuff into your hair as you get it shaved off and take pictures. I've suffered this fate. Not the asshole. A reasonable human being would understand postponing. Also, anyone commenting who has this, well duh, a bet is a bet, attitude is screwed in the head. Even if it was set in stone, who gives a crap? It's sports, not something that actually matters. Just wait until after the wedding. And no, not the asshole. You just need to decide if your relationship with your childish friend is more important than your relationship with your sister. Seems pretty clear to me how you feel. Setting boundaries, even with friends, is healthy and important, and your friends should recognize that your sister's wedding is more important than any sports bet, obviously. I truly cannot express the level of disdain I have for those people. They watched the league and decided that's how they wanted to live their lives. God damn, I love John Lajoie. And OP replies, take my word for it. Outside of hockey season, Jermaine is one of the kindest, most generous, loyal people I know. He literally once gave someone his jacket off of his back. Not many people can say that about their best friend. It's whenever the VGK win that his jerk side comes out. Then again, people can say the same about me. And now onto the update. I took you guys' advice and tried to see if I can talk some sense into Jermaine. I waited a few days for him to get off his VGK winning streak high, and I think seeing his team get beaten by the Habs humbled him a bit. Anyway, I brought up asking to postpone the humiliation, and this time Jermaine was more open to it. Especially when I brought up the thing that was on the line, my sister's wedding. My older sister is normally chill AF, but even she had a few bridezilla moments leading up to yesterday. To be honest, I don't blame her. Planning a wedding is stressful, but it was worse during the past year. I had to point out to Jermaine that this was a big deal for her before reminding him of the crap that he went through when his sister was getting married. If he was me, he would have been the one begging to hold off on the punishment. In the end, Jermaine agreed to wait until after the wedding. We made up and agreed to have some kind of boundary when it comes to the future bets, especially when the humiliation may affect others like our families and other friends. That being said, the DMs I got calling me and Jermaine a couple of immature man-children were uncalled for. We may have been making stupid hockey bets since 2017, but we're also first responders with our own places, significant others, and all the other adult things. Just let us continue to do this one stupid thing as long as we aren't harming others anymore. And by the way, Jermaine and I had a blast reading through the comments and DMs later. If you think this was a stupid humiliation, we have done punishments straight from Kenny vs. Spenny episodes. Which leads me to today. Jermaine showed up at my apartment at 10 AM this morning with a pair of scissors and some clippers. Now I look like what would happen if Harry Potter lost a fight to a lawnmower. Work is going to be rough for the next 2 weeks. And now in the comments, your friendship will last forever with this dumb stuff. My husband has a tattoo on his ankle from losing a sport bet with his mate. I just put it down to boys being idiots. At least your hair will grow back. I have to look at that shamrock forever. Huh, are you married to my brother? He's an only child and makes dumb bets on UFC match outcomes, but good to know he has kindred spirits out there in the world should I need to replace him. I'm glad things worked out, and I think your caveat to your bets is definitely a fair thing to agree on. I have a similar deal with my husband and his bets with his friends. I don't care, as long as it's not negatively affecting anyone else. I hope your hair recovers fast. And P.S., go Habs, go. Sounds like you went through the something that my dad did, although not quite. He made a passing joke to his boss at the time, as my dad was known as a prankster with good intentions, about him having a nice haircut. Boss is bald. They laughed and he thought the end of that. Nope. Less than an hour later, an email was going around taking bets as to how much money it would take to shave all the hair off my dad's head. My dad then quite had a bit of hair on his head and a really full beard. End result was that he agreed, but all the money taken was then donated to the local soup kitchen and he kept his eyebrows. You and your friend keep up your childish shenanigans. It sometimes makes for hilarious memories.